Hello and welcome to my YouTube video. I would like to talk about yesterday's game between Brest and Leverkusen and later FC Barcelona and Bayern Munich and then an overall look at the Champions League table after 3 rounds. If we start with the Brest Leverkusen game, we have a half where I know it was 1-1 in the first half, but Bayern Leverkusen was in way more control of the first half than in the second half. If you look like the stats are not it also felt that way. Like Leverkusen was after a goal and halfway through the first half, it felt like okay, they're just going to score another and then another and then another. So it was a bit like how it felt with the final game until Brest scored. That changed the game completely. Like after Brest scored, actually became a much more even game in the second half, and it feels like some of the magic that Leverkusen had for last season, where they just kept getting back into games, is kind of away now. Now it feels like when they start, sometimes conceding, they slow down like a lot. They know they don't play like they did in the start of the season. They slow down more. They play more cautious. Like they even try to make a lot of subs to try and get into the game. A bit annoying that they need to take this a player that was subbed on off again with an injury, but that's football. But yeah, it was just like they just couldn't get to like a decent chance in the second half. And Brest, even though they had a lot of chances, a lot of them was outside the box, like a lot of long shots. But Leverkusen just couldn't get like a clear chance. It just felt like we can't get the ball in. We can't actually get where we want to. There was some small penalty shots, but like there was not really anything. The handballs, they weren't there. Like here, when your arm is here and you're tackling, it's not really a hand. Like it's not really a penalty. I'm glad the ref didn't give it. There was so yeah, it was like a really interesting game, and this is what I like about the new Champions League format. We have a lot more close games this way. Like normally in a group, we would have needed to have West and Leverkusen draw each other, but I actually don't remember their seeding, so I can't actually remember if they could have thrown each other. But because of this new way where every pool one team plays two pool one team plays two pool two, so forth and so forth. Like when every team still played two teams for their own pool, it actually gives us a lot more close games, a lot more intense games, a lot more interesting games to watch. And even a game like the early game here between Brest and Leverkusen was actually an interesting game where normally the early games in the Champions League felt a bit more like it's just there. But now we actually have a lot more interesting games. I also feel like after 3 games that every round that there is some kind of surprise, like that we have some way where how would I say Leverkusen are going to play. But Leverkusen was a big favorite in the game, and I would agree with it before, but I actually felt like Brest should have won it in the end. If you look at the odds, Leverkusen was fairly was a big favorite, and he had a good season, and looks like Les Malupi is going to have a good season again and versus Scott. If we look at the lineups, that was just one of them. You can really see when Bayer Leverkusen are missing Victor Boniface. I think the last few games where he has been injured, they have actually played a lot worse. So I think they actually need they can actually feel the loss of him. He's quite integral to that game from what I've seen in the last few games. Next game I would like to talk about is Barcelona versus Bayern Munich. Barcelona scored a very quick goal in the first minute. Bayern kind of looked like they weren't prepared, but after that they pressed Barcelona back. But it became a game where there was a lot of open space behind both teams, but both teams' defense pushed up really fast. So it was like in the middle of the pitch, it was like all 20 players besides the goalkeepers was there most of the time in these first 20-30 minutes. Like every team, Barcelona pushed up and Bayern pushed up, so it became like really cramped to play, and that's why it became a lot of counter-attacking football. But then, Bayern scored 2-1, and then Lewandowski 2-1, and then Rafinha scored 2 more in the game. But what's really interesting about this Barcelona Bayern game is the fact that Barcelona didn't have a lot of possession. Like we're used to Barcelona having a lot of possession. In the first half, they only had 38% of the ball. Where we used to, they want to have the ball. They want to have. Sometimes it would be the opposite. Bayern wouldn't have that much of the ball, but they would just be more clinical. Where Barcelona was really clinical this game. They have an expected goal of 2.23 and they score 4. So, but both in the first and second half, they were really good at taking their chances and scoring them. Where it felt like Bayern just was missing like that last meter, those last few meters to actually get the ball across and like or the last meter to get to the ball or was too quick to like it felt like Barcelona was way more clinical in their chances they took and they therefore won the game against one of their biggest enemies and like kind of psychological opponents in Europe. Like Bayern Munich have given Barcelona some of their biggest lashing in Europe's in past memory in the last few years. But this also gives Barcelona a really big confidence boost to El Clasico on Saturday, where they actually beat one of the teams they normally have a really hard time playing against, and fairly convincingly. So I think that the Real Madrid Barcelona game will be very interesting, but I also think there's a chance that Real Madrid could score a lot of counters. Then if we look at the table, like right now, Aston Villa have won the first 3 games, which is a surprise because they played Bayern and then they played 2 small teams in Brugge and Young Boys. Liverpool have won the first 3 games. They have also played against some good competition. But then you start looking at City drew, Barca lost, Dortmund lost, Real Madrid lost, Benfica have lost. Feyenoord, after their 4-0 lashing in the first game, have won 2 games. So they're almost as a positive goal score now. But you also see here, like Milan lost their first 2 games. Inter lost 2 games. Like it feels like because there's a chat that the big teams have been allowed to start slow, they're actually able to start slow, so they can get into gear and start playing. So I think, of course, Bayern and AC and Leipzig will be more up in the top 24 when we get to the last 8 games. No. When we get to every team played the 8 games need, but right now it looks like the team's starting slower. Let's see, Bayern please. No, it's not even that the reason Bayern them are low is because strength of schedule they have to only play hard teams. Yes, I know they play Aston Villa, but before the season you wouldn't have picked Aston Villa to beat Bayern Munich. And then they have played a good team Barcelona, and then they have played the Dynamo Cup that they beat 9-2, which is now above them with 1 point in the table after losing 9-2.